Hey, what's up guys? Radku here, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today is going to be an Invoked Shaddoll deck profile. Now, I actually do really like this deck. This deck was kinda one that wasn't on my radar for a while, because the Dogmatica variant of this deck was far more popular and considered to be better. But surprisingly, this deck is pretty sweet, being able to take advantage of Alistair the Invoker and Invocation a lot better than most other decks are, because this deck is fusion centric. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting things off, I play 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker. This card's a 1-card combo, easy way to get into a negate, which is really good. Makaba is just a super card to end on, and Makaba along with like a trap is honestly like not a bad board. So the thing is that even though a lot of the times you won't draw into your full combo slash Winda plus Mekaba, you'll still be able to set up usually either or, which is good to stop most decks. So for the Shaddoll lineup, I played 3 copies of Wendy, 2 copies of Ariel, 2 copies of Hedgehog, 2 copies of Beast, 1 copy of Squamata, 1 Falco, and 1 Dragon. Now, Wendy is insanely powerful, so if it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 in face down defense position, and keep in mind you can still use it for fusion material if you do so. This is something that a lot of the Shaddolls share. So they usually have an effect when they're flipped, and then they'll have another effect if they're sent to the graveyard by a card effect, which includes fusion summoning. So the thing is that Wendy is probably one of your most powerful cards in the deck because it sets up plays, as well as just getting free bodies on the board, which in turn can allow you to pull off massive combos. I played 2 copies of Ariel. This card is broken. This card allows you to banish 3 from the graveyard if it is if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, which is insane. You can actually pull this off with cards like El Shaddoll Fusion, and like in the middle of an opponent's like combo, you can banish their important combo pieces, stuff like Despot 001, you can banish that and then just completely halt them, as well as being able to counter graveyard decks, which is something that's very prevalent now. Or like in the Sky Striker matchup, it's honestly just insane, and this card is really one of the most powerful cards in the deck. However, its attribute is kind of unfortunate. If it was like a dark attribute, that'd be a lot better, but like still, they kind of had to do that. I played 2 copies of Hedgehog, or the Hedgehog searches spells, and if it's sent to the graveyard, searches monsters. The Beast allows you to draw 2 and discard 1 if it's flipped, or just draw 1 if it's sent to the graveyard. Squamata foolishes 1. Falco allows for recovery plays because it special summons itself back, and then allows you to gain back resources when it's flipped. And then Dragon is just a nice out for certain cards. It can return cards to hand, which dodges destruction, and so on and so forth. So that is it for the Shaddolls. For my hand trap lineup, I put 3 Ash, 2 Valor, and 2 Nibiru. I decided to main deck Nibiru in this deck because you need a lot of light targets, and I didn't really want to play the Perform Age engine, because the thing is that kind of bricks. And if you don't draw enough fusion spells, you won't be able to use it effectively. So I decided just to completely cut that and just play more light-based hand traps. I actually did play 3 Valor at one point, but I decided to cut it down to 2. So for the spells, I played 1 copy of Terraforming and 1 Foolish, just as my one-offs. Foolish is insane because it triggers all the Shaddoll effects, and Terraforming just searches your Meltdown. I played 3 copies of Meltdown. Meltdown searches your Alistair and allows you to pull off fusion plays really easily because they can't negate the activation. I play 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion, 3 copies of Invocation, and 2 copies of El Shaddoll Fusion. Now, this might seem really weird, because the thing is that a lot of decks won't play this many fusion spells. And now let me explain. So the reason I play this is because the main issue I had with the deck is that it would die to a single hand trap. Playing multiple fusion spells allows you to play through Disruption, because drawing like 2 fusion spells allows you to continue through your fusion plays that you were going to do. So if your opponent is able to stop your Invocation somehow, then you can still use your Shaddoll Fusion to go into plays like if you're going for a construct. So that's really good. And then the El Shaddoll Fusion was just so that I had the quick effect, so I can trigger Aerial, as well as the fact that it's easily searched with stuff like Construct. So I thought it was pretty good. You could easily cut any of these, because like most decks like to play double Invocation, but the thing is that this deck specifically uses Invocation so well that I don't see why you would want to do that. Plus, the fusion effect isn't once per turn, so it makes it really easy to just use and abuse this card. So that is it for the spells. Going into the traps, I play 2 copies of Solemn Strike, 2 copies of Shaddoll Incarnation, and 1 copy of Shaddoll Schism. I'm not sure how to pronounce that still. Strike is really good because you can just set Strike, put the Winda, and then put the Mechaba, and then pass, and then honestly that's a really good board. The Incarnation is just so that you can easily flip your monsters. Being able to abuse the flip effects isn't exactly the most important part of this deck, but I thought it was still really good, especially since you can still special summon from grave, and it allows you to banish your Shaddoll monsters, which leaves place for Aerial. And then the Schism is self-explanatory. This card's amazing for summoning Window in your opponent's turn. So that is it for the main deck. Going into the extra deck, I play double Mechaba, 1 Raijin, 1 Purgatrio, and 1 Kaliga. So the reason I do this Invoked lineup instead of just double Mechaba and like a Purgatrio is because 1, Mechaba is self-explanatory, but also Raijin is really good for 1, being a disruption, and 2, allowing you to trigger the effect of Wendy, so that way you can have the proper attribute types, and you can easily use any of the other ones depending on what the format insists on. So like if the format is more graveyard reliant, you can put Cocotus, I'm not sure how to pronounce that card, in the main deck, and then you can easily use Aerial to banish cards if need be. So mainly the Invoked lineup is just so that you can get the cards out of your hand and utilize their effects better. Purgatrio is obvious, it's a game closer, and Kaliga is really good this format, and especially with a deck that's mainly dark focused, it's kind of easy to pull it off. So then for the Shaddoll lineup, I play double Winda, double Construct, and 1 Apkallone. So honestly, there are plenty of times when I want to play more Shaddolls, but the thing is that the extra deck is kind of tight with this deck. It's also why I don't play the Pot of Prosperity. You could easily cut some of the Invoked cards if you wanted to play stuff like Greasta, but honestly, like, I didn't see a need for it. So this is my lineup of fusions that I like, but it is easily changed, and like you could cut out the second Winda, you could cut out certain Invoked cards, and it's kind of easy to mesh. So for the links, I play 1 copy of Artemis. This card allows you to use Alistair. 1 copy of Almirage along with the Secure Gardna. This is also for Alistair, but I like it just because this gets Almirage in the grave, which allows you to set up plays with Purgatrio. I play 1 Gravity Controller, so that way you can just get rid of Construct to use the search effect. And then I play 1 copy of Cross Sheep. That special summon is really, really good, and it allows you to utilize stuff like Shaddoll Incarnation better, because you can flip them face up and face down. But that is it for the deck. I don't really have any combos for this deck, but the thing is that this deck is super adaptable, and with so many fusion spells and so many monsters that you can use to go into the Invoked and the Shaddoll cards, this deck is just has a wide variety of plays. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the deck. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, let me know what you thought, and let me know if there's anything you would change about the list. Would you change up the fusion spell lineup? Because it does seem a bit excessive at first, but during playtesting, more fusion spells actually was better. Or would you change up the extra deck at all? And yeah, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you in the next Yu-Gi-Oh video. Peace, guys.